Right, in the days leading to elections, journalists have had to contend with crime and harassment while doing their jobs. Our reporter Ziniko Mhlaba was yesterday accused of distracting an election officer in Soweto and arrested by police. Is there a disconnect in society's understanding of the role and the media, especially in enabling a thriving democracy? Nomshado Lubisi is the communications manager at Media Monitoring Africa and will be in conversation with Ayanda Nyati. Let's take you to Pretoria.
Thanks very much for that, Mpho. And of course, so much coming out of that moment that Ziniko Mhlaba, who's our reporter here at Newzroom Afrika, and the exchange, for lack of a better term, that he had with multiple officers, including the presiding officer, we understand, at the voting station where he was at just yesterday. Some context for you. We understand there had been a disagreement around how Ziniko was doing his job. The version of events presented by police and Ziniko differ, and I imagine there's going to be a whole lot more clarity in the hours to come around what exactly happened. However, in the backdrop, it does raise an important conversation around the relationship, at the very least, that journalists ought to have, not only with police, but with you and I as ordinary citizens. And as you've heard there from Mpho, Nomshado Lubisi joins us now via our video link. She is with Media Monitoring Africa. And Nomshado, firstly, thanks very much for your time. I mean, let me just begin by gauging your reaction as a monitoring body to the situation that unfolded yesterday.
I mean, MMA condemns this. It's unacceptable that in this day and age you would arrest a journalist for simply doing their job, especially when it was found that he was not actually at the wrong side of things. And, you know, I think it was mentioned as well, journalists play a very critical role and a very vital role, if I may add, especially when it comes to the election process and informing citizens about what's happening, especially on the voting day as well, you know, being able to have that first-hand experience and really report it to the public as to what's happening in the various different stations. So it is quite alarming that, you know, we would have such, you know, handling of situations, especially from the SAPS side, when a journalist is there to obviously fulfill their role and mandate to the public.
Absolutely. But, Nomshado, we have this conversation around every election. I mean, there's always a discussion around the role that journalists play, why it's important, and equally of importance, why we need to safeguard that. Given the discussions that have taken place and how much time has passed, why do you reckon there is still that disconnect, for lack of a better term?
I mean, over the years, we've seen how journalists have been attacked, you know, especially, you know, in quite a harsh and brutal way. And I think the understanding that, you know, I was in an event lately, and it was said by a very, 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 very inspirational man who was in the first-hand experience during the apartheid, you know, understanding our media freedom, to say that, you know, media is a reflection of their society, and that's the role that they play, and that's how they are centered. And the understanding that in order for the public to be able to be aware and to make critical decisions on societal issues, they need to understand information from credible sources. I mean, now we've got social media, whereas we've got an information influx, and, you know, media entities play that vital role to ensure that the information that they're receiving is credible. And that's what, you know, that's what needs to be highlighted here, is that, you know, given the day and age of digital technology and social media platforms, we need to understand that, you know, media entities play that also vital role to ensure that citizens are getting credible information. So to know that, you know, media freedom was fought for, and now we are in this day and age where it's not given that respect that it used to, you know, be given, especially when it was, you know, not in a democratic state. And here we are. It's really, really quite alarming, and a lot of work needs to be done to ensure that we understand the role of the media, and as well as the responsibility of the media. We're not saying that media is perfect. You know, errors can be made. However, they are a very fundamental role in our democracy. Sorry.
Absolutely. Interestingly, this year the Nobel Peace Prize went to two journalists, and there was so much talk around how that would, at the very least, propel journalism to the stature that we're hoping it gets to in society, generally speaking. But do you reckon that that kind of recognition is trickling down to the grassroots levels where, quite frankly, a lot of this discord is still very evident, as we saw yesterday?
I mean, I think it is, given, you know, our robust media in our continent, and the fact that we are part of, the top countries that are really thriving when we're talking about media reporting and the freedom of press, etc. So I think, it holds a lot of caliber to know that we still have that sense of investigation within our media. We still have that sense of holding the power to account, which is one of the important roles as well, to ensure that society has a voice, to ensure that society is informed, not only about what they see on the outside, but what's also happening the inside as well, and especially when we're now talking about government or we're talking about, political parties. So I think it really showed a lot in terms of our media, and I think in society as well, to see that our media are really going out to the front and seeking those stories that will keep them informed.
Absolutely. Nomshado Lubisi, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Nomshado is the communications manager with Media Monitoring Africa, and so much to take away from that discussion as we continue our rolling coverage around at least the results of the local government elections here in South Africa.